Watershed year 1955, when the 14-year-old's world was riveted by the primordial image of James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, the classic coming-of-age film. As for so many young Turks of his generation, for Bob it was an epiphany, and Dean's Jim Stark in Rebel Without a Cause was the first of many personas he would adopt. Zimmerman abandoned his khaki chinos and neat polo shirts for a black leather jacket, tight blue jeans, and boots, and entered Hibbing High with a greaser attitude that shocked the conservative student body. The cornerstone of this transformation was the stirring new music seeping up from the Deep South, led by the gospel rock wailings of Little Richard. Suddenly, Robert Zimmerman had found his direction in rock and roll. Bob soon got his hands on every rock record he could find and was itching to start his own band. After tracking down a drummer and guitarist among his classmates, Bob formed a trio called the Golden Chords, and their first gig was the Hibbing High Jacket Jamboree. Performing in the school auditorium before the entire student body, the diminutive pianist played with such abandon and deafening intensity, he managed to break the sustain pedal on the school's prize Steinway. Outraged, school authorities outlawed the group, and the Golden Chords were forced to play thereafter in only basements and garages. To many locals, Robert Zimmerman, the middle-class merchant's son, was now a pariah who played the devil's music. By graduation, he knew it was time to move on. Beneath his yearbook photo, he wrote, "Gone to join Little Richard." That fall of 1959, Bob traded his piano for a Silverstone guitar from Sears and Roebuck, changed his name to Dylan, and took off down Highway 61 for the big city of Minneapolis. Officially enrolled in the University of Minnesota's liberal arts program, Dylan wasn't really much of a student. Instead, he immersed himself in the city's Dinkytown district, a kind of New York Soho on the fringe of town where the new beat culture was thriving. It was a brave new world for a kid fresh off the Great Plains. For the first time, Dylan found kindred spirits and debated the social and political issues of the day. In this hip new setting, Dylan could be anyone he wanted and wove several convincing tales about his colorful upbringing as an oaky drifter right out of the Grapes of Wrath or a young carnival roustabout. For a time, he even pretended to be Bobby V, the musician who fronted Buddy Holly's band after his death. Dylan remembers an early encounter with his bespectacled boyhood idol, Buddy Holly.
One time when I was about 16 or 17 years old, I went to see Buddy Holly play at Duluth National Guard Armory, and I was 3 feet away from him, and he looked at me.
Dylan found his first real home in the Dinkytown coffee houses like the 10 O'Clock Scholar and Purple Onion, where he could spontaneously get up and recite poetry or strum a guitar. It was here the wannabe musician would temporarily put away rock and roll and slip into a form-fitting mold of a folk singer. His new heroes were musical giants like Leadbelly, Robert Johnson, Odetta, people who really lived the blues. In this often dark, down-in-the-soul music, Dylan could identify with the pain of alienation, rejection, and loneliness. Back then, people called his performances magnetic, tempered by a charming, naive humor borrowed from his comedy idol, Charlie Chaplin. In 1960, a college professor handed the edgy sophomore a book that would change his life, Bound for Glory, Woody Guthrie's stirring 1943 autobiography. This torrid tale of a Dust Bowl drifter crisscrossing the American landscape with its touchstones of poverty, freedom, and human dignity contained all of Dylan's fantasies come to life. Bob became so obsessed that he read the book until he wore off the cover and taught himself 200 of Guthrie's prolific song catalog. At one point, he even became Woody, talking, singing, and even acting like the legendary folk musician. Armed with an inspiring new persona, in January 1961, Dylan bid farewell to Minnesota, bound for the bright lights of New York. Guthrie was living in the Big Apple, and young Dylan was determined to meet him. The budding musician didn't take long to track down his idol. Guthrie, in the final debilitating stages of his battle with Huntington's disease, was confined to a hospital bed. An enthusiastic Dylan burst into the room and within minutes was serenading the withering legend. The two got on like old friends, and Bob even penned a tribute to his idol, Song to Woody.
Well, I didn't take off for the hospital there. I was around the country before that, and I'd heard of Woody. I knew Woody. I saw Woody once a long, long time ago in Burbank, California, which was I was just a little boy. I don't even remember seeing him.